Hey guys, it's Dr. Tanner coming at you here. I am coming at you from our IV suite. I just wanted to remind you, we've got this great speaker coming up. You're going to love it. Super exciting, really cool info, all like hands-on things you could implement into your life today. But I wanted to remind you at the end of the summit that you could link in, and I want you to have access to those bonus materials that these people are providing. It's really valuable information. So don't forget to link into that. I also want to let you know that I am here to help. I am happy to work with you, to help you with your health concerns, to help you with your performance. You can find me and have access to me, Dr. Tanner, at www.run-lab.ca. So that's run-lab.ca. You can link in there. You can find out how to work with me. Enjoy the summit. It's going to be a lot of fun. Hello, it is Dr. Tanner back here again. Today we are with Dr. Tabrizi. We've had the pleasure of working together for the last couple of years at the Integrative Health Institute, and for anyone who has worked with Dr. T, they know that he is an endless fountain of knowledge, and we are absolutely lucky to have him on here. Dr. T, tell us a little bit, like, do you have any patients that have suffered from burnout?
Hi guys, thank you. This is really fantastic to be able to have this conversation with somebody else who's not only a fantastic clinician, but is also in the front line when it comes to running. So the way I think about a problem is that whether it's a psychological burnout, whether it's a physiological, or whether it's a neuromuscular aspect, right? Because I think that as amazing as running can be, right, a lot of times people get into this almost like an automated way of approaching it, right? So we want to be able to always have that passion and that love and that desire for running. Because one of the things that I see with some patients, right, that they become so focused on their mileage, on their distance, on winning, that they forget that aspect of enjoyment, right? One of the things that we really care about is that physical freedom, being able to run and walk and climb and pull and push. That's what has made us human beings. So I don't want it to get to a point, and I've seen this a lot with some elite level runners, that they just completely trash their bodies, or psychologically they don't enjoy it and they never run again. And to me, I think that is not a good thing to have.
Yeah, we need to have that fine line, right? Are you still enjoying why you got into it in the first place? So Dr. T is also a runner, so he gets it. I'm sure you push the limit sometimes yourself there, Dr. T.
Okay, so top 3 risk factors for running injuries. A, mileage. Too fast, too much, too soon. Number 2, being a male. Why? Because men, we are innately bad at estimating what our capacity is, myself included. And one of the big things that happened was like, I decided, hey, it's a birthday, I want to sign up for an ultra trail run. And guess what? My strategy was wrong. I figured, you know what, I'm going to go with a minimalist shoes. I want to be able to get some grip. And I didn't study the course. And it was incredibly rocky and it was very challenging. And it really completely killed my lower extremities. And it took me almost about 5 hours to finish. And I remember that there was something quite profoundly amazing about it. There were times that I was in a zone, and there were times that I just couldn't get anything done. And you keep just going, right? And one of the things that ends up happening is, like, after finishing this, I got this incredibly atrocious looking neon yellow jersey, right? And I'm like, what the hell? This thing, like, could not be worth more than $5. And I'm like, I'm not this. Everything is hurting. 5 hours. I'm just like, what the hell am I doing?
So you were so tired you couldn't handle the swag that you didn't like?
There was no swag in that. And you know, by the photos of you guys who know me, I mean, I like to get my swag on. And this was just awful, right? And I got to tell you, it was about 3 days later, I was doing a run club, and I'm about to leave the room, and I'm like, oh my God, you know what? I don't have anything better to wear, so I'm going to rock this, right? And this is how delicious Toronto or any major city can be. As I'm wearing this, feeling good about myself, with 20 other runners around 5:30, there were 3 or 4 homeless people who were having a wonderful time drinking. And as I'm running back with a group of people behind me, one of them looks at me and it says, "Lemon boy, I like to squeeze you."
Oh my.
And boom, what do you say to that? I have nothing. I was like, "You got me, too good." So I went home and I burned that shirt. So that shirt is no longer. It's part of my wardrobe. So there you go.
So when you were doing that, though, did you feel like that comment took every last bit of energy that you had? Like you were already kind of like run down from this crazy trail run, and then you had that. Was that the last straw?
Okay, so now let's just like sort of think about it like a little bit differently on the serious side. So you know me, I'm incredibly fascinated about the brain, and you create a mental models. The two things I want you to pay attention to: there's complexity, and then there's chaos. There's a lot of complexity within our physiology, within our biomechanics, within our neurology. As complex as it is, we can still get a hold of what we need to do in order to be able to be injury-free and also be able to maximize our performance. But there's also chaos. There's things that are going to happen that you don't necessarily prepare yourself for. So that's one of the things I try to be able to think about, that there's complexity. How much would I be able to control in terms of my training, my sleep, my nutrition? And then there's other things that I wouldn't be able to necessarily anticipate. And the key thing about it was like that comment, as funny as it is to me right now, at that moment, to your point, it just completely deflated me. And on top of everything else, you know, having everybody laugh at you was like, oh, okay, what's up in that, right? So, and that's just one psychological sort of a thing that happens. But imagine as you're running or doing something else, like let's say you experience a pain, or somehow you're dealing with all that external psychological aspect of the family life and everything else, right? So it all comes into the same bucket. And I think for the first time, we're trying to realize that you can't really tease it out. You know, you have to think about the totality of where you are.
So you're saying the brain is a complex organ and it functions on a complex level, but when we're in a more chaos state, those little things like somebody heckling you can really hit you. It's harder to deal with those other things, right? Those small things set you off, whereas if you were not in that chaotic state, you'd be able to handle that a little better. Is that kind of what you're saying there?
Yeah, so I would say I would also try to anticipate, or as Nassim Taleb talks about, black swan. Like there are things that you don't necessarily even think about that is going to be that's going to happen, right? And you can anticipate for it, but you can also realize that, for example, and I think we've had that experiences with a lot of patients, that things are going well, and all of a sudden something happens, and they waste so much energy in terms of like, what did I do or what I didn't do, right? But personally, I feel that the question should be, how do we get you better? That is a wasted energy. You know what, in terms of those mental models that we want to be able to create. And the reality of it is that, look, there's a lot of things that could contribute to your injury. There's a lot of things that is going to contribute to you feeling burned out, right? And do we know all of them? Probably not. But usually there's about 3 or 4. And then if you just keep going back to the fundamentals, be able to say, okay, what are the things that I'm able to control? How do I be able to, again, to manage the things that I can, to some extent, be able to scale back or scale up and then be able to approach it again? But part of, like, sadly enough, the culture that we're in right now, everybody is like, I'm not doing enough. I need to do more. And I don't know if that's necessarily the best strategy. So I think to some extent, the thing that I would try to do is like, hey, am I doing the right tactics? Am I approaching the right mindset to this problem? And then be able to go from there.
Okay, so would you say that if somebody is more in that chaotic state, that they're getting into that burnout, they're feeling run down, are they more likely to get injuries during that state?
Yes. I mean, so we are at this particular sort of an epoch of a time where everybody's talking about evidence-based, science-based. look, science does wonderful things about collective, but at the individual level, one of the things that we try to be able to do is try to empower patients to be able to audit themselves and assess themselves better in terms of where they are, right? So I think to some extent, if there's other things that is pulling you aside, then you're not going to be present or in the moment. And we know this from cutting edge world of neuroscience in terms of the immune system, right? If your immune system is really busy trying to put on many fires around your body, it doesn't have enough time to be able to modulate your pain. It's the same thing here, that I feel that chaos, that complexity is that if you have a knee problem, if you have a foot problem, if you have a back pain problem, if your breathing is off, I think that sometimes it just overwhelms the system. And you need to be able to collectively, and what I mean collectively in terms of like, whoever is in your team to be able to come up with a plan. And having said all that, Toronto, this is after the Raptors won. Woohoo! But think about Kevin Durant. As amazing as he had his team, you still can't predict what's going to happen. So the reality of it is that, again, it goes back to that complexity and the chaos. And I'm sure like there were people who are way smarter than that, but all of us put together that thought about this problem and they looked at it in terms of what would be the risk factors and what would be the chances. They came up with an idea, they came up with a model, and still that didn't happen and ended up being in a catastrophic injury with Kevin Durant. But the key thing is like the reality is like, look, human experience, training, recovery, rehab, it's a practice. It's not, hey, this is exactly what you need to do and everything is going to work out, right? And I think that a lot of times we forget that. Right?
Yeah. Okay, so if somebody's life, it's becoming chaotic, things are going crazy all around them, they don't feel like they have that sense of control. One of your tips is to scale back on the things you do have control over. What else can they do?
So my big thing is this. What is your emotional state before you go for a run? And again, I'm going to bring my own story because I think a lot of times when I'm frustrated, I just go for a run, or we try to use exercise as a way of managing our stress and anxiety and our emotional landscape. And I think there was a study from McMaster that, look, you need to be able to be in a physiological state, and another sort of a simple way to think about it, be less angry and frustrated, because that is already a load on your system. And once you get your heart rate up, it's going to accelerate it to the next level. So one of the things that I would do is like something as simple in terms of with my Brainfulness is like try to be able to say, all right, how do you be able to get a hold of your stress response? How do you be able to, again, to put yourself in a neurological state where at least the stress of running, the biomechanical stress, the neurophysiological stress, the motor control stress, all this other stuff doesn't deplete you and you have enough to be able to handle it.
Okay, the Brainfulness. Can you go through like some of those steps of Brainfulness?
So what is Brainfulness? It's my take on mindfulness. And one of the things that I wanted to do was to be able to teach my patients and for myself and other clinicians, how do you manage your stress response? Because again, according to Sapolsky's work from Stanford, your stress response is activated 60 to 70 times a day, whether you're consciously aware of it or not, right? And that's a lot. So you get stuck in this fight or flight. And everything could come in from everywhere, whether it is advertising, whether somebody questions like your status, whether somebody questions your intelligence, your worth, your identities. It all goes to the same thing, people. So the question is that how do you be able to, again, to reset that? So one of the big things that we do is we get into vision, we get into breathing, we get into trying to create a better cohesion between the brain and the body.
Are you saying it doesn't matter what your stress is, your body's reacting the same way? Ooh. Physiologically?
So I would say that we need to be able, so fundamentally, and this is another sort of tricks about our brain, is that it wants to do what is familiar, not what is healthy, right? So your job is trying to be able to optimize for what you need to do. Or the way I think about the problem is that that stress response is in part of our evolutionary history for millions of years. So you will get stressed, your shoulders will shrug up, that you're gonna get a spike in your heart rate, you know what? But the question is not to focus or allocate your resources on that. It's rather be able to reset the system. And that's what Brainfulness tries to teach you. It's like, hey, allocate these resources and what you need to do in terms of being able to reset yourself.
Yeah, I like that. We always go back to what's familiar, right? And then we repeat the same things but expect a different answer. So interesting that, you know, if you've been doing the same pattern over and over and over again and you're still stressed out and you're still tired, we need to reset that pattern, right? All right. Any other amazing tips, Dr. T, for these runners?
I'm giving you a lot. What else? I mean, lemon boy. What else do you want from me? I think one of the things that also like really helped me was I give up music. I mean, like when I'm running, I want to be in a moment, and I don't even want to sort of like assess my own running, because inevitably this is a side effect of what happens. Yes. Is that every time I see somebody running, I'm already thinking about, oh my God, why are they making those choices? What is their stride rate? Are they why, how much are they sort of like, yeah, it is really insane. And I hate that. And I'm like looking at somebody, I'm like, oh wow, look at what they're doing, right? So I tend to be in places where it's not populated by a lot of runners. And I like to just enjoy my environment. I like to be able to say, oh my God, this is great. And again, going back to how we started this, physical freedom. The reality of it is that your joints have a finite amount of mileage on them, right? You can't just trash your body. So if there's one thing that I always tell every patient, and I fundamentally believe this, don't treat your body like a car rental. You're not some goddamn crappy car that you can trash it for a week and then send it back. You're a beautiful Ferrari. High maintenance, but that's all you are for the rest of your life. So you need to take care of it. Boom. Knowledge dropped.
Right? Like, would you put regular gas into your Ferrari now? You're gonna go for premium. You're taking it for hand car washes. You're taking care of that team, right?
And really, if you go back to that, and I think that, you know, and again, this is something that I've been guilty of it as past. You become so focused in terms of, I want to do a marathon, I want to do an ultra, or I want to have this time. And people spend so much time and effort to get to that point. And then they injure themselves, or it doesn't change their mindset or their lifestyle. Mm-hmm. That's one thing that I want to be able to what we're passionate about is also, like, as somebody who's over age 40, is that you want to think about longevity and sustainability, right? So, I mean, at this point, and I got to tell you, I'm a big fan of pushing yourself, being able to challenge yourself, to set goals for yourself. However, you also got to realize nobody cares. You know what I mean? Nobody cares about your time. Nobody cares. Be kind to yourself, right? But you care about it. And I've worked with like elite level, like Olympic athletes and everything else, and people who have done this amazing, fantastic things. You know, but it's all about like that Ferrari and how you have to drive it around, and how you get along with people in your life. That's everything that ends up happening. I think a lot of times that when people are training so hard and they're in pain, they tend to be not the nicest individuals, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you're cranky when you're hurt, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, you know what, it's not fun. And I'm like, well, what's the point of it? I think to some extent, and again, we can sort of take it to the next level, is that, look, do you also have a capacity to be able to run further, to increase your speed, but also are you having a better capacity to tolerate different points of view? Are you expanding your capacity to be able to be nicer to other people? Yeah. Like, to me, this is the other thing that I think running does. One of the most amazing things that I love about it is that every runner, when you see each other, you just give out, boom, you show some love. You know, it's like, hey, we're in it together. And fundamentally, I think it's the most fantastic way of expressing what it means to be a human being.
It's a great community vibe, right? Everyone coming together doing their own thing, but feeling the love when you're out there. That's awesome. So to recap some of the things that Dr. T was talking about, we're looking at the psychological part, the physiological part, and the neurological part. And watch for those signs, right? If you can't handle that somebody doesn't like your outfit, that's a sign that
you go back to that.
You're a little bit stressed out, right? It's that tipping point. You're starting to creep up near the edge. But freedom, like, are you really enjoying it? And if not, we need to take a step back and figure out, like, to Dr. T's points, or is it the mileage? Maybe you're pushing the mileage a little bit too much and you're not getting that enjoyment anymore. You're just burning out. And maybe you're just a guy. Maybe those guys, like, you're just pushing too much and you don't know when to take that step back. Looking at the complexity versus chaos. Is your life just complex? Or is it like chaos ensuing all around you? And we need to take those measures to rein in some of those chaotic bits a little bit. Life has bumps all up and down the road, but we need to have those measures in place so we can handle those bumps that are coming our way. And one of your things was, can you control it? You can control more than you think you can control, and scale back, right? More and more and more. It tends to be like our modern day society. Scale back on the things that you can, and give your body a break to recover. And then you can build back up again if you feel like you're in a good place. That pre-run state, are you angry when you're starting your run? So just becoming, like, aware again of those little symptoms. Are you frustrated? Are you irritated, like, that you even have to do this run? Like, what's going on in the brain there? Those are all signs that we need to pay attention to. And that brainfulness. So Dr. T's twist on the mindfulness, the brain is kind of your, what do you say, like the driver of the rest of your body? How do you describe that?
I think it just controls everything. And I think one of the things, like, if I could sort of like go back to one of the things that we were talking about, being a male, because men, they drown, I think, like 4 times more than women, because we tend to overestimate what we're capable of. And I heard even in a street fight, it's crazy. Men overestimate how strong they are in a fight by 4,000%. Why not? This is insane. Like, oh my God. But then again, evolution would make sense, because as a hunter, you're like, oh my God, this is a massive animal. Like, I have to come up with this crazy model that I am more than what I am, right? But I do think also the flip side is when women extend themselves to different aspects, right? You know, when you're doing so much for other people, you're looking after your family, you have to do all this other stuff. But that is another load, or is another way of thinking about that you're increasing your mileage, right? So we all tend to do things in our own specific way, right? So it's like, do you feel like, you know, you're being overwhelmed by all different things, right?
Being pulled in a lot of different directions.
Exactly. If you have, if you're working in a toxic work environment, if all this other stuff plays a role, you know what I mean? So, and I think we're starting to really see how integrated everything is. But the big thing in terms of, like, you know, the brainfulness is that ultimately the brain is the main interface that just allows you what you're able to do or not. Because your man, again, and it does it by controlling your behavior vis-a-vis pain. It allows you to be able to see how much it can unleash the resources that you have. So it's like, to me, is the main organ that controls everything. And we know so little about it, but we're starting to get much better, more insight into how it governs everything.
Yeah, and that brainfulness theory, like, don't compare and don't analyze. Be kind. Be kind to your brain. Right? That's your main driver. We need that. Be free when you run. And lastly, you are a Ferrari. We value those cars, so we should value our body the same way. Treat your body like you are a machine, and you will.
Or it could be a Tesla. Try to be environment friendly. I'm trying to be woke about it. It could be a Tesla.
So some great tips. Thank you, Dr. T. Dr. T is here at the Integrative Health Institute, integrativehealthinstitute.ca. If anyone's looking to get in touch with him, we'll have some more of his info after the show. Thank you.
I look like a running coach. Oh my God. Like, look at me. Wow. Okay. All right. Thank you. And you're awesome. This was fun. Boom.